Hey, Mount Hebron youth and children, I am glad to be with you one more time in this Lent season for another little devotional of something to think about for you today. So last week we talked in worship about restoration and reconciliation. And I developed that as an idea of how we grow closer to God and find restoration in our relationship with God, coming from a place where we've been maybe away from God for a while, or at times, and we come back closer, we turn towards God and draw a little nearer. The reality is that God's always right around us. Sometimes we just aren't looking. Sometimes we just don't feel God. We might turn away. We might clench in. And God's here and God's saying, I've got you, I'm helping you. And we say, we got it ourselves. So keep that in mind. Sometimes when you think God is the furthest away from you, God's actually right there. But we're holding on so tightly, we don't let go and let God hold us. So keep that in mind. But then reconciliation is also about making peace with other people in our lives, places where we've been hurt, where there's pain, where maybe we've hurt somebody else. So I want to talk a little bit more today about that, because there's a really important point here of knowing when it's time to work on reconciliation and when it's too soon. We always would like to make peace, okay? Especially as you go to school, you're around the same people year after year, right? You're in their classes, maybe they're on the same sports teams you are, or doing the same activities you are. It's hard when you've got a broken relationship with someone to still be around them. And that could be you've had a disagreement, or it could be that you were much closer and something happened and that relationship broke apart. So when do you try to seek reconciliation? Well, it's important to know a little bit about wounds. So when you first get a wound on your body, let's say you've got a wound on your hand, you scrape it up against something really good, it bleeds first, doesn't it? Okay. And you've got to clean it up and you've got to take care of it a little bit and put some cream on it and Band-Aids or whatever's going to help this get better. That's an active wound. It's open, it's bleeding, or it's seeping the kind of stuff that the body makes to cover it for a while so that it can heal underneath. Wounds are amazing. Our bodies, of course, the way God created them are amazing. They make that little crust over it on purpose so that underneath can heal. Every time we rip that crust off, we're making it worse for our bodies. So that's a wound. Now, after a while, when the wound heals, or mostly heals, the ones that still hurt are the ones where there are scars, where you can actually see what happened to you still. It stays. It's not going to go away. I have a tiny little scar right here on my finger. You won't be able to see it very easily, but one time when I was trying to open a bottle with one of those weird caps, and I didn't have the right tools. I had a Swiss Army knife with me and I thought, well, this will work. So I was edging that bottle lid off and the knife folded right into my finger. Ow, that was not fun. And I still have a scar from that. I look at it and I remember to make sure I'm using the right tools and not doing something silly. Now, that scar is healed. I can still see where the wound was, but the wound isn't open. It's not bleeding. It's not seeping. It's not trying to restore itself. This is as good as it's ever going to be. The scar's there. It's not very noticeable. It's healed. So when we talk about times when we've been hurt or when we've hurt other people, the best time to work on those things is not when they're wounds. It's not when they're still open and bleeding or seeping that protective cover. We need to get them finished first. We need to get them healed. Then once it's a scar, you can go back and you can work on reconciliation because the pain isn't so bad. The wound isn't so deep. It's healed over. Lots of things have improved. And then you can do the good work with the other person to find a new and better way to relate to each other, to heal and forgive each other. But while the wound is open, that's when we need to take care of it. Okay? And if we try to work on reconciliation too soon, it's like pulling that scab off over and over and over again. The wound will never heal, will it? If you have an open wound on your hand or anywhere on your body and you keep picking that scab off, it's never going to get better. It won't. So what do we do when we have open wounds? That's where we need to ask God to help us take care of ourselves. Okay? Somebody's hurt us or we've hurt somebody, and all we can feel is really bad inside. It's not fun, is it? And so we may need to talk it out with a trusted adult. We may need to write about our feelings. We may need to go do something that makes us feel more calm and like we're okay. Sometimes for me, that's reading. Sometimes for me, that's exercise, actually, because exercising your body actually helps your body cope when you're feeling really bad. When we do those things that help us, then we start to get healing. And once we've healed, then we can figure out what to do about the relationship. What's the right thing to do? I'd like to ask you to think about what kinds of scars you have and what kinds of wounds you have. We all have experiences at all ages of our lives that do give us those wounds and those scars. Our lives are not without problems. So think about that. Think about what's open and bleeding still that you need to get help from God and from a trusted adult on it. And think about the scars and the ways that maybe now is the time to figure out how to close that a little bit better, how to make a new path, if it's possible, for that relationship. Jesus did all of this for us. Jesus knew that we had sinned to make mistakes and that we would do plenty more. And Jesus took our sins upon himself. He suffered and was wounded for us. And now he still bears those scars. But Jesus has healed all of our relationships and brought us back to him. It's a wonderful Easter gift. I care about each and every one of you. I'm glad you are part of this church. And I hope and pray that you have a wonderful and blessed Easter.